Good morning, I'm Nandini and I'm from CSCP first year. Today my topic is about information transfer through flowchart. So before I get into the topic, I would like to give a small insight on what exactly is information. So information is a small piece of data that you will encounter in your day-to-day life in many places. In newspapers, you get information. In the magazines you read, you encounter information. Everything you read is a lot of information. So I am going to talk about how to interpret this information in a more easy manner. And that is what my topic is about, information transfer. And I'm going to specify this topic only through the flowcharts. Information transfer. Now, to give a basic idea about what I'm going to speak, I would like to give a small example. If you are a product manager and if you give your customer details about how to use a product in the form of paragraphs, then it would be a lengthy process for the customer to read it and understand it and then use it. So in order to make that easy, we use a procedure called step procedure that is you tell your customer how to use the product step by step. And similarly, you can also tell your customer how to use your product in a more organized manner, which forms flowcharts or tree diagrams. So my topic is flowchart. So it is all about making the information more easy to interpret and giving an easy way for other people to understand what you're trying to convey through your information. So that is the basic ideology of information transfer. Or else you will have an experience of converting a solid piece of information into a flowchart. Now, the terminology of information transfer goes like: information transfer is equivalent to data transmission, which highlights more practical and technical aspects. As I told you, it is nothing but information transfer is nothing but data transmission. That is, you transmit your data from paragraphs to either flowcharts or any other diagrams in order to easily interpret and understand it. And also, this particular concept of information transfer, it highlights more practical and technical aspects. Sometimes transfer of information can help students learn more quickly or more easily, rather than reading long paragraphs at a stretch, like an n number of paragraphs. You can transfer your information in the form of a flowchart or in the form of a tree diagram, and it'll help students or people who read the flowchart or read the tree diagram more quickly. And reading paragraphs at a stretch is a more time-consuming process. Whereas when you transfer your information, it is more easy to understand and it takes less time to understand. So it is not as time consuming as the latter one. Now, the information transfer is used to convert text to diagram and diagram to text. So there are two particular ways in which you can do this concept called information transfer. The first way is you convert text to diagram. The second way is you convert diagram to text. Now, in this slide, in the later slides as well, I am going to concentrate only on how to transfer your information from text to diagram and mainly flowcharts. Types of information transfer. As I told you, I'm going to concentrate on how to transfer from text to diagram. There are two particular ways in which you can do that. The first one is a tree diagram. Now, the tree diagram is something like this, which I represented on the left side of this slide, wherein you can use the tree diagram mainly to represent some hierarchy, or, basically you encounter this tree diagram a lot in history subject, because you show a lot of origin of species or origin of origin of kings or anything, mostly used to show hierarchy because it's a easy way of representation. You can also show family relations in this particular diagram. Tree diagram are mostly specified for such sort of genre. Now, when you come to flowchart, this is a very simplified way of representing any type of information. Now, if I give you some example, like you want to give instructions to your co-worker or to your customer regarding how to make tea. Now, rather than writing up the information and piling up it in paragraphs and paragraphs, you can develop a step-by-step procedure, or you can also go through a flow chart. Now, flow chart, if you represent your steps in the form of a flow chart, the person, whoever is reading your instructions, will have a very, very clear picture of what to do and how to follow your instructions. So this is a representation of the flow chart. I did it on the right side of my slide. And it goes something like this. I will discuss more about the flow chart in the later slides, but just to give a gist of it, it is a step-by-step procedure which is followed up by arrows and certain symbols like ovals, rectangles, rhombus, etc., etc. So the basic two types of information transfer goes like either in the form of a tree diagram or in the form of a flow chart. So it's up to you, like what genre you choose. Are you giving representing hierarchy? Then go for tree diagram. Do you want to give some instructions or make it more easy to understand? You can choose flow chart. Now, flowchart. So before I talk more about flowchart, so what is it exactly? In understandable terms, it is nothing but a diagrammatic representation of an algorithm. Now, when I speak about algorithm, it is nothing but the step-by-step procedure. Whatever your instructions or your information in the form of a step-by-step procedure is converted into a diagrammatic representation, which is nothing but flowchart. You use a set of conventional symbols in order to represent your flowchart or represent your information in the form of such conventional symbols, diagrams. So that is nothing but flowchart. Now, when I speak of the literal meaning of it, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it defines flowchart as a diagram that shows step-by-step progression through a procedure or system, especially using connecting lines and a set of conventional symbols. See, as I told you, it is a diagram that represents a step-by-step procedure, and it shows progression, like right from the starting till the ending. There is a progression in all the steps. You come from starting till end, and especially using connecting lines as in the arrows which I have shown earlier, and a set of conventional symbols. Yeah, for when you start the flow chart, there is a certain symbol to represent it. When you end the flow chart, there is a certain symbol. When you're instructing, there is a certain symbol. There are arrows to show the progression. When you make a decision, there is a certain symbol to represent it. So these are all the conventional symbols. Like there is a standard set of symbols that you have to use if you are representing information through your flowchart. Now, a flowchart can be used to break big ideas into small bite-sized pieces that are expressed visually. This is the main important point of why do we use flowchart. It is basically used to break big ideas. That is, all your complex ideas, all, everything which is big can be broken into small bite-sized pieces and yet can be understood in a very simple manner. Like, rather than understanding your complex ideas in a complicated way, you can break them into small pieces in the form of a flowchart and understand it. Now, it is a diagram that shows how information is communicated or flows. It shows how your information is communicated right from the starting till the ending, from a source to a receiver or target through some medium. The medium acts as a bridge, a means of transmitting the information. Now, what is the means of transmitting the information, or rather, what is the medium of transmitting your information here? It is the flow chart. Now, as I told you, now I'll be speaking about those conventional symbols and how to write your information into those conventional symbols. Now, I call them as the elements of flowchart. Now, there are namely 4 elements for a flowchart. Like the most used ones are these. There are a set of other symbols as well, but mostly when information is transferred, or when you use the concept of information transfer, you will encounter only these symbols. Now, the first one is the oval. Now, the second one is the rectangle. The third is the arrow, that is the connecting lines. And the fourth is the diamond. I will tell you more about how to use these symbols and what purpose do they serve in my next slides. Now, coming to the first element, the oval, an end or a beginning. So what do you mean by an end or a beginning? That means whenever you start your flow chart, or whenever you're having an idea to end your flow chart, you use this particular symbol called the oval. As I represented here, you use this symbol for in the starting or in the ending of the flow chart. Now, the oval is used to represent the start and end of a process. As I told you, it is used to represent the start or the end of a process. Use the Glyphy flowchart symbol tool to drag and drop one of these bad boys, and you have got yourself the beginnings of a flowchart. It is simply how to, draw oval in your conventional set of symbols I have told you in this sentence, and use the same symbol again. Use the Use the same symbol again to show that your flowchart is complete. So that represents how to start and how to end. So for example, you're giving instructions upon how to make tea. Now, you wouldn't start writing the information right from the starting step. It wouldn't be a nice idea. The first step may be start and the last step may be stop. So whenever you're writing that start, now how do you represent it in the form of a flowchart? You do it in the form of an oval. And whenever you're writing stop, how do you do that? You do that in the form of an oval. That is what I said. So it indicates the starting, and also it indicates the ending of your flowchart. Now, coming to the second symbol being the rectangle. Now, a step in the flowcharting process. Rectangle, the process step. Now, this is the most important step in the whole flowchart concept, as it shows how to write. We actually write information into this step. That is your rectangle. Like as I am giving the example of how to make tea. Now, when you're writing your instructions about how to make tea, then you have to use this process step. That is, write all your instructions in the rectangle. You can go step by step, not using only one rectangle for all the instructions. You can use some 3 to 4 or how many ever your instruction steps are. Those many rectangles can serve the purpose. That is why it is known as a step in the flow charting process. That is the process step. So whenever you think about the process step in a flow chart, it's definitely the rectangle. Now, the rectangle is your go-to symbol. It represents any step in the process you're depicting and is the workhorse of the flowchart diagram. As I told you, it is the workhorse. It is where the whole work is taking place. So if there is no rectangle, there is no work done in the flowchart. You're actually working on the flowchart means you're working on your rectangle. So give it a lump of sugar and I'll love you forever. Now, whenever you're thinking to write your instructions, just use the rectangle like this, as I showed here in your flowchart. The next, the arrow. Now, this serves the main purpose. Without this, there is no flowchart. Or without this, it is again very complicated for the person who is reading your flowchart to understand it, because it serves the purpose of progression. In which way or in which direction is your flowchart progressing is served by the purpose of the arrow. Now, the directional flow. That is why I told you the directional flow. In which direction is it progressing? So without this, it is just a mere piece of set of diagrams. The arrow is used to guide the viewer along their flow charting path. So it is giving you, like right from the starting till the ending, it is giving you a direction in which way should you proceed to read the flow chart is given by this symbol called the arrow. And while there are many different types of arrow tips to choose from, we recommend sticking with one for your entire flowchart. See, there are many different arrow tips. Arrow tips means this one. This is an arrow tip. And there are many different types of arrows with many different types of arrow tips. But do not use all types in one flowchart. Just use one type of an arrow with one type of an arrow tip in your entire flowchart. Because that if you use different arrow tips in your flowchart, that would make your flowchart clumsy and confusing to understand. So when you use just one tip of an arrow to represent your entire flowchart, that would be easy for the reader to follow the direction and as well as to understand it. It's less confusing and generally more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, it is also good to see whenever you use only a single arrow type. It is very good to see. It is attractive for a reader to read it and also not very confusing or clumsy. Now the diamond. Now, call for a decision. Now, when do you use the diamond? It is basically when you have to decide something. Now, for example, while making a tea, few people use brown sugar and few people use white sugar. Now, if you want to ask the reader or direct the person who is reading your flowchart in the direction, you can make a decision in your diamond box saying, do you have a brown sugar or white sugar? Or like, if brown sugar, follow this direction, else you go towards this direction. Like, you know, just like this. Over here, you can write up, if brown sugar, then come here. Or else then go through this steps. So that is more of a decision call. You know, I just gave an example. The diamond symbolizes that a decision needs to be made. Therein, the reader needs to make the decision. That is, you can use diamond when you have multiple options to choose upon. And you have to give the reader all those multiple options because they are the ones who need to decide in which direction they need to progress through the flowchart. And that decision call is made by a symbol called the diamond. If there are only two choices, you can draw arrows directly from the diamond to the next step. See, here there are only two choices, like brown sugar or white sugar. If brown sugar, go this way. If white sugar, then go this way. Now, if you have more than two decisions, like more than, two options, then something like this comes into picture. Like how many other options are there? You can give those many, you know, paths for your diamond. If there are more than two choices, you can draw them neatly. So this is just a decision call. Whenever you're making a decision, the symbol which serves the purpose is the diamond. Yeah, this is an example. I have given here another example of drawing a flowchart. That is a medical process flowchart. See, decision to transfer a patient. That is the starting. See, that is why the start is always indicated, as I told you, by the oval. Information patient of risks and benefits. This is done in the form of a rectangle because you're giving you're informing your patients. That is, you're giving instruction. Now, see this, here comes the decision. Does patient consent? If yes, you follow this way. If at all no, then you follow this way. Again, you have another decision over here. If yes, again, you follow this way. If no, you go the other way. See, this is a decision call. I have given all the set of conventional symbols so that you can understand in an easy manner. So winding up, the start or the end is indicated by an oval. Your information, your instruction, your necessary, whatever you're trying to convey, necessary things to convey, everything goes into your rectangle. Your call for a decision goes into your diamond, and your directional flow, your representation of the directional flow of the flow chart is done with the help of your arrows. Now, advantages of flowcharts and information transfer. Using a flowchart has a variety of benefits. It definitely has a lot of benefits. Here are a few. It helps to clarify complex processes. As I told you, instead of thinking complex ideas in a more complicated way, you can make them easy and think in an easy way. And flowchart serves the purpose. It identifies steps that do not add value to the internal or external customer, including delays, needless storage and transportation, unnecessary work, duplication, and added expense, breakdowns in communication. It helps team members gain a shared understanding of the process and use this knowledge to collect data, identify problems, focus discussions, and identify resources. It serves as a basis for designing new processes. These are just a few advantages of the flowcharts that I've mentioned. Yeah, so this is all about the information transfer through flowcharts. Thank you.